I have the wonderful Shanie with me here. Thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. I've been wanting to interview you for a while. And then I just messaged you last minute and now you're here. So that's how that worked. But I really appreciate you being here. And we've actually known each other since our boys were really little because they're both very similar ages. I think only a couple of weeks.
I think like 5 days.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. 5 days. Amazing. So we knew they were very similar in age and we just sort of connected early on and we've just remained friends over the virtual means since they were little bubbies. And now they're almost 4 and I can't believe it.
I know. I was actually thinking about you the other day. I'm like, how are they 4 already?
I know. And I feel like they've lived such a life already. Um, You know what I mean? And they're only 4, so it's just wild. And it's just been so nice to have you along for the ride. And I do have certain people around Australia that we've just known each other like since the beginning. And I'm just so excited to have you on because I think your journey again is so unique. And, every time I interview someone, there are parents out there who just resonate in so many different ways. And I know this is going to happen with your journey because it is so unique. And I guess we will start there at the very, very beginning of when this all became a thing and your beautiful little Knox came into your world. And I guess that's at the start when, you first discovered Knox was deaf. Now, Knox is your third boy.
Yeah.
So do you want to share a little bit about like your family dynamic and then sort of, yeah, how that all went down?
Yeah. So Noxie's our third boy, like you said. We had Nate and Aston before him. I think when I'm gonna get this wrong, but when Knox was born, Nate was 4 and Aston was 2. So it was like 4, 2, newborn. Um, we're all hearing, my whole family's hearing, all of my friends are hearing. I actually like don't even know if I'd met a deaf person before having little Noxie. So yeah, he definitely threw a spanner in the works and introduced us to a whole new world. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so talk me
sorry.
through the moment I guess you obviously had Knox. You're in the hospital, you're getting the newborn hearing screening. What sort of happened around that time? Like what were you told?
So we had the newborn screening. We were in a private hospital, so we were in for 4 days. So I think it was day 2, they came in, they're like, we're going to do the newborn hearing screening. I was like, yeah, whatever, like third time round, go for your life, took the little picture, did the little thing. And then we're just talking. And I remember him having the hiccups the entire time. Like he just kept hiccuping. And I think I looked at the nurse at one stage and she looked at me and I was like, oh, like he just keeps hiccuping. And then she said, I can't even remember the words she used, but for lack of a better word, it was like, he's failed the newborn hearing screening. Don't worry about it. We'll come back in a day or two and we'll do it again. And I was just like, he was moving the whole time. It was the hiccups. Like, of course he's failed it. Why would he pass it if he keeps moving? Not knowing that that actually has nothing to do with the test. And then I remember just like just chilling, like enjoying having like a third little baby. We stayed in hospital, me, Andy, and Knox. So we didn't have the other two, just like soaking up every minute with him. And then the fourth day, they came in to do the test again. And that's when I was like, just feels a little bit weird, obviously not going through it with the other two. And then, yeah, she said, look, again, I can't remember exactly what she said, but he's failed again. Um, I hate that word, but I'm like, that's what they say. And I just burst into tears. I don't remember anything that she said after that. I was just like, what does this mean? And then it was kind of like an absolute whirlwind from there. I remember like coming home and then just getting phone calls for audiology appointments. And I remember we got this one phone call. I don't know who they were, but they gave us these statistics. They're like, how are you feeling about the upcoming audiology appointment? We like to reach out and talk to families and let them know statistics. And it was something ridiculous, like 50% of babies fail the newborn hearing screening, and then it's just a like fluid in their ears, and then they go do the audiology and it comes back fine. 40% have a temporary hearing loss, again, just fluid and it's fine. And then 10% have a permanent hearing loss. I was like, oh, what am I worrying about? Like the odds, like 10%, that's so tiny. Then went into the audiology appointment. He was 8 days old and, did all of the little cords and all of the things. And he was this tiny little baby. And then the audiologist said, yeah, he's profoundly deaf. And I again burst into tears. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, what does profoundly deaf mean? Like, and then there was like cochlear implants and like all this just like medical like jargon. And I was just like, oh, this is so far like out of my league. I have no idea. And
Wow.
then she said to us, have, or we're going to do a swab for a virus. Are you happy to consent to that? And I was like, what's the virus? And she said, Cytomegalovirus, CMV. And I was like, oh, I got tested for that when I was 8 weeks pregnant. I've had the antibodies, like blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, we're just going to do it again anyway, if you're happy, just to see. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, it's like a little swab. So he had the swab. And then, yeah, 2 weeks later, got another phone call, or not 2 weeks later, sorry, when he was 2 weeks old, got a phone call that, yeah, he tested positive for CMV. So I was just like, this is not how it's supposed to go.
And just also, again, that same old story of them trying to play it down for you, like thinking they're doing you a favor by playing it down when really you probably just needed to have some preparation. Like even though you really can't prepare for that, at least knowing that it was an option,
Yeah.
just deafness alone, but then the CMV on top of it, which is just so people just don't know about CMV.
No, it's so crazy. Like I worked in childcare, so there'd been like conversations about it, but I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that most of us got tested for it before we were trying for a baby or whatever. But I already had 2 kids and had never heard about it before. So I was like, this is just insane.
Oh my goodness. And so he's 2 weeks old. You just found out he's profoundly deaf. You've just found out he's got CMV. So what happened from there? What was like the next step? What did they push you into, I guess?
Oh, it was honestly like chaos. Phone calls after phone calls, emails. I remember getting this package. I can't remember who it's from, but it's like this package with all of this stuff with like the early intervention programs in Melbourne, information for parents of deaf children, audiograms, speech banana, speech pathologists, the poem that Keely spoke about a couple of weeks ago, Welcome to Holland, all this stuff, information for the grandparents. And I was just like this, it was like this thick. And I was like, whoa. And then it was, yeah, phone calls and appointments with early intervention, Hearing Australia. With the CMV side, we pretty much just got a text message to say, you've got an appointment at infectious disease at Royal Children's Hospital on this day at this time. Like there's no, when does it suit you? It was like, you come this time, this day. And because of when we found out with Knox, when he had the swab, we went into a 5-day snap lockdown in Melbourne.
COVID.
So
Ooh.
the joys.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so we had to wait, I guess, a little bit longer for the results. So then when we had the appointment with infectious disease in Victoria, I feel like I'm going to get this wrong because it was so long ago, but in Victoria, they don't give you the antivirals past 4 weeks, I think.
Mhm.
And this for CMV. And they say that the antivirals can lessen the severity of the symptoms of CMV, but they don't really know. Um, so we just got all this information about this medication, and I'm pretty sure we went in when he was 3 weeks old. So we had like not even a week to make this decision. And then, yeah, it was weekly blood tests, weekly weigh-ins, antivirals twice a day. And that was like just for that part. And then it was tracking his milestones, like just like it was crazy. And then having 2 other kids on top of that. So I think it was refreshing having the other two. I feel like they brought me like back down. Otherwise, I think it would have been a different scenario if I didn't have them.
Yeah, they can sometimes be that distraction you need, hey, and you always think about parents who their first child is deaf and you're going through all this stuff. And, the CMV stuff is such another layer. I guess what were they looking for? What are some symptoms of CMV that can crop up that you were sort of, I guess, concerned about?
So obviously like hearing loss, then there's cerebral palsy, epilepsy, global developmental delay. I cannot remember the word or like what the terminology, but like small head syndrome.
Mhm.
Um, there's so many more, like the list is endless. So it's literally just unknown waiting. I feel like we finally, I guess, took a breath. I wouldn't say when he started walking because he was doing stuff before then, but probably like the first year was just waiting to see if he would reach those milestones. And then it was hard too because we had like the deaf element. So we knew that maybe his development would be different because of the balance issues that comes along with being deaf. Which I'm not sure if that's like an uneducated answer thing for me
Oh
to
no,
say.
it's the research. It's all about the motor skills. Yeah, and the motor skills can actually be quite not delayed, but their deaf kids can sometimes take longer to do those, major milestones. Yeah, no, you're right on.
Yes. I just remember being like, well, he didn't crawl until 8 months. Actually, no, he didn't roll until 8 months, and then he didn't crawl until 10 months. And that was very different to my other two, which I think that's like it was good and bad because Nate to Aston are chalk and cheese with their development. So I think it was good for me to be like, well, they're so different anyway, and they're like typical children. So I think that was kind of refreshing. But I was like, well, if he is delayed behind whatever, it could be like anything. It could be because he's deaf. It could be because of CMV. It could be because he's Knox. Like, who knows? So I had a reason there. So I guess I wasn't really concerned, but it was more just like, what else has the CMV affected?
Oh,
How else has it affected him?
that would have been so anxiety provoking, just not knowing what was going to happen and having to just wait and see. And I feel like that I used to worry about Frank's development in the early days because he was also a bit slower. He didn't walk until he was 20 months. And we were, pulling up and crawling. Everything was definitely later. And that was enough for me. Like I was like, oh my, even though, I mean, the deafness, I was doing so much research because I cannot help myself and I probably need to stop, but I can't. And that sort of gave me some comfort, but it still is just that first year, man, it's, it really shakes you because you just don't know. And so I can't even imagine having that CMV layer on top. And I think you're right, once you get to that point where he is walking independently and you're like, oh, wow, actually, okay, we can take a breath. And I really felt that when you said that because it seems like that was just you were almost holding your breath,
Yeah.
at that time. Wow. So, okay. So obviously profoundly deaf. And of course they're going to throw the cochlear implants at you pretty hard and fast. So what was that journey like? And also you are a bilingual family. So I'd love to know about, I guess, what, you came to that decision as well. So yeah, talk us through that whole journey early on.
So, yeah, they mentioned us at the audiology appointment when he was 8 days old. He was profoundly deaf. And then they said cochlear implants. And I was like, what are they? And then I remember asking, and the terminology that I used was, will we have to learn sign language? I knew nothing about it. I was like, no idea. And she said, oh, well, technology, like he'll be able to have access to cochlear implants. And I was like, okay, cool. And then, went home, had the chats, all of the things. And then I think we had two phone calls from the early intervention programs in Melbourne, Aurora, who is spoken language or like listening, speaking, and Auslan. Like that's like their Auslan is that's who they are. And then at the time it was I cannot remember what they were called, but I think they're Tara Lee now. Anyway, they were just speech and spoken, listening and speaking is what they were. And I was like, okay, cool. And I don't know why, I don't know how, but we were just like, Aurora just is the better fit for us. And I think we started interacting with them from, I want to say 4 weeks old. And that was just it. We were just like, Auslan's the way to go. He's profoundly deaf. There's so many instances where he cannot hear us. And especially in those first 10, 11 months before he was implanted, he had access to no sounds. So if we didn't have Auslan and we didn't jump into learning Auslan, I don't even know how I would have just been like banging my head against a wall. Like he's getting nothing for this whole time.
And it's so, I mean, firstly, it's so refreshing that you found that outcome on your own because you obviously weren't guided to that outcome, so to speak. But also like that you just were able to find a program that could just scoop him up and you could really feel supported and you were informed. And I always think about that pre-implantation time, yeah, whether, you know, that first year of life is so critical for language acquisition. We know this. And yet it just seems everyone's cool for them not to receive language until they're implanted. And you just think, how is that okay? Like in my head, I just don't, it's never really made sense to me, you know, and I think that I just love that you were able to get through all that fog and all that conflicting advice and find home for him and home for you guys. And it sounds like it's been, you know, I obviously have followed your journey from the beginning and I think, you know, he is just an absolute firecracker and he's doing so incredibly well. And you did make such a beautiful choice for him. But I guess as well, on top of that, you also had to go through a pretty full-on surgery, which no one really tells you how full on it is.
No.
So talk us through that. How are you feeling, you know, when you finally sort of worked out what cochlear implantation surgery was going to encompass and what that was all about? Yeah. How did that all go down?
So I think once we'd kind of like settled into things and he had the hearing aids and we knew that he wasn't getting anything from that, we started learning Auslan when he was 6 months old, COVID, so over Zoom to start with. We had Aurora come to our house and we had a teacher of the deaf who was deaf and was signing to him. And I was watching like videos on, I think it was Latrobe University Auslan, Ramus. I was watching all of his videos and teaching myself Auslan and signing to Knox. And then it was kind of like, okay, cool. He had the MRI at 6 weeks old to see if he had what he needed to have to get the cochlear implant. And then came back that he did. And then it was kind of like balls rolling from there. His right ear is profoundly deaf, but I think I'm getting this wrong, but his left ear was severe to profound. So they were umming and ahhing about the left side. Um, and it was a lot of testing, a long process. They wanted him to be older and sitting up. And because he wasn't meeting the developmental milestones at the time that he should be doing it, he couldn't do those behavioral testing to really give an accurate representation of what he was getting with or without the hearing aids. So it was, yeah, a lot of testing, but they were still like not sure. They pretty much said, we've had meeting after meeting. At the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to implant that left side or not. I was like, okay,
Okay. Sure.
sure.
Easy
Yeah,
decision.
no worries. So I think we knew him. We'd been talking to him, chatting with him, signing with him, doing all of the things at home for the last 9 months before we made the decision. We knew he was getting nothing with the hearing aid. I think a few of the times where we like clapped behind him or like talked or whatever, sometimes he would turn around, but I'm like, is it because his peripherals unreal and he's seen the movement, or has he felt the breeze of our wave? Like there's so many things, but we just knew that, yeah, the right thing to implant both. And I also didn't want to go through the process twice. I didn't want to have to get one implant and then in 6 months' time or a year's time go through all this testing again and then them say, yeah, he needs it. He's not getting anything. And also with CMV, in a lot of children with CMV, whatever hearing loss they have, whether it be no hearing loss in one ear, profound in the other, mild to moderate, whatever it is, usually it deteriorates over time. So I was like, well, it's severe to profound. Like on the audiogram, he's hearing nothing under like 100 decibels. I'm like, what's he getting anyway?
Mm.
And then yeah, he
That's
was
functional hearing, I guess, as well. You're like, what can he actually use with this level? And you have to make that call. It's not easy.
no. And I think that was the thing too. Like for us, we had a lot of conversations with, I guess, some other families that had children who were implanted, and we got some, I don't know whether you call it advice, that sometimes the deaf community can be a little bit hard on hearing families who implant their children when they can't make that decision. But we just looked at it like, well, we're all hearing, he's in a hearing world, life is going to be difficult for him anyway. We're doing all that we can to give him access to his deaf identity and to the deaf community in every way that we can. We're giving him both.
Yeah.
So that helped us make our decision on doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Oh, it's so hard to know what's right. And you in this space, you get so much conflicting advice, and it's so important that we really, I always say, connect with as much lived experience as we can from all angles. Yeah. And I think you really did that. And you've been so from the start, so focused on ensuring he has that bilingual pathway, that bilingual approach, and has access to both his worlds. And it seems like he's really starting to come into his own with that and use language in the way that really suits him. And I guess since he was implanted, how has that journey been for him? Has he been consistent with his CIs?
No. Oh gosh, he was like, I'm a pretty stubborn person, I would say. So if I have something in my head that's going to work for us and that we're doing, there's nobody that can tell me otherwise. We had his switch on, and in true Knoxy self, he could not care less. Like he had them on, they turned them on, we were all like, Knoxy, like doing all the things. He was just like nothing, no expression, like just giving nothing. We're like, okay, cool. At this point, he was 10 months old at switch on. And then, yeah, we came home and he was wearing them and then he wasn't wearing them. And you know how it rolls, all waking hours and whatever. And I just remember going to his appointments and them saying like he's only had them on for 30 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever it is out of the whole day. I'm like, yeah, because he's 10 months old and he sleeps. He has 2 2-hour naps. He's sleeping 12 hours overnight. When I'm breastfeeding, I'm not putting them on him because they're going to fall off and knock off. And then he's rolling around on the floor. So, yeah, he's getting half an hour or an hour and a half because that's what he's getting.
Oh, it's so much like whenever they say that to me, and I've heard them say it to many families, is all waking hours, and they almost, I'm sure that it's not intended, but it just is the guilt we feel as parents when they have to like show us how long they've had the CI on for, and particularly in those early days, weeks, months, whatever, when they have no idea what is on their head and why it's on there, and I'm like, do you want to come home and try to put these on my kid? Because I would love for you to see that in action because it is not what you think it is. Like it is so much harder. And I can't even imagine a 10-month-old. Like I had a hard enough time with my 3.5-year-old. Like,
I just remember it's so funny, like looking back on now, because it seems like a lifetime ago that he was doing this. But I remember, like, on the app, it tells you how many times the coils have come off. And it was something ridiculous, like the left side was 170 and the right side was 162 or whatever. And I was like, I was putting them on him and he was throwing them across the room quicker than I could put them on. And I just remember telling myself, when he goes to bed, when he wakes up, we'll start again. And I think like I finally got to the point where I'm like, this is too much. Like, this is actually too much. I'm stressing out that he's not wearing them. I'm stressing out trying to get them on him. And it's just putting me in a crappy mood. I don't want to do this. And then that's when I started really being like, nah, if he doesn't want to wear them, he doesn't have to wear them. I'll ask him, I'll put them on him. If he takes them off, I'm not forcing him to do it. And that's when I was like, we have this other language, so it is what it is. And then I think it was maybe 6 months after he was implanted, we tried with the headband and he just left it and didn't touch it. And then he was like good, I guess, for a while. And then he went back down again and he was piffing them off. I think there was one time where he would have been, I want to say he was not quite two, and he was getting, like, as per the app, I think the most we were getting was 8 minutes of speech. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I spoke to his teacher of the deaf, and she's like, put his favorite TV show on, give him snacks so he's busy. And I'm like, he just doesn't want to wear them. He just does not want them on. There's nothing that I can do. And by that point, I'm like, he's too what, like, whatever. Like, you do you. You want to wear him, wear him. You don't want to wear him, don't wear him. I'll ask you every day if you want to put him on. Not going to force you. And then that's pretty much been our motto the whole time.
And I feel like it's so hard when you're getting all the guilt and you're getting all the people telling you that this has to be a certain way. But I actually feel, because we were similar at the beginning, Frankie just wasn't keen. And you know me, I was like, cool, whatever, chuck him on the bench. Doesn't bother me. But I found eventually, because I just left him to his own devices, he eventually was started choosing and picking when he wanted to use it. And we're going through a really good phase at the moment where he's asking for it in the morning and it's really good. But I think it's a really important message for families to know, particularly parents on the journey who may not know this, is that refusal throughout, particularly those first 5 years, is so common. And particularly between 18 months and 3 years, that is our highest rate of refusal, because they're obviously exercising their control and, all this sort of stuff, which they should be doing. It's their own body and all of that jazz. But I think actually taking the pressure off yourself would have just been such a relieving moment, and knowing you had another language that was there, and it was just he always would have language regardless of devices. I think that that's just such a beautiful thing, because I always think, what would you do if one day, if you hadn't learned Auslan and one day he woke up and decided he never wanted to put them back on again?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a wild thing. And I know you had a period of refusal more recently, actually, with him. And did you ever get to the bottom of why that was happening, or was it just Knox?
Mm, I think it was just Knox. I think it was just teenager just wanting to just activate, this is my choice. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to wear this, whatever. We went to mapping and changed some of the settings, and they gave him like a 30-second delay before he got access to sound, which actually that seemed to help. But again, he was already refusing it for like 2, 3 weeks. So maybe he was ready to have them back on anyway. I don't really know. But now he's cracking it because the 30-second wait is too long now. He's like, when they're on, I want them to be working. And he does this thing. He'll put them on and he'll go la 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 la. And if they're not, if he can't, he's like throws it. It's like, not working. Like, you have to wait. You have to
Oh,
wait.
we can't win. We
No.
actually can't win.
But I think like looking back now and choosing Auslan for our family, making that choice. And that was a choice that I think I questioned it more than Andy did. Andy was like, no, that's what we're doing, like straight away. Which is so much easier when you're both on the same like I can't even speak.
Trajectory. Oh, well,
Yeah.
Exactly.
we want the same thing. This is working for us. This is great. But yeah, like that having that to fall back on, not that it was something to fall back on, like we use Auslan all the time, but knowing that if he didn't have his implants on and he didn't have access to sound and speech, he was still getting language, he wasn't missing out. I think it just made it easier to take that pressure off because I think I would have been a basket case if he didn't, because I would have been like, he's missing out on so much and I've got to get them on him because he has to hear this because otherwise it's like this and that and all the rest of it. Whereas like now I just like he's so fine.
Yeah, I know. And I think when you're in it, particularly in that first year, there's just so much going in your head and you just worry about everything and the language and how are they going to go and like when they hit school. And I mean, those fears are still very much present, but I feel like, once you get into this and you've been in it for a few years, a lot of those initial fears do start to sort of recede. I did want to ask, I guess, about the family dynamic, just how that's changed. What does Knox's village look like? We always talk about the village and how we want to align that village. And sometimes people think that means, direct family, and that's what I mean by the village. But I'm just mean your support system around you and him. What does that look like, and how have you sort of grown that as Knox has grown?
So our family's amazing. They're super supportive. They do everything that they can to help support us and help Noxie. Um, I remember mentioning to our family, Noxie's deaf. He needs Auslan. It's so much easier for him to access. We need you guys to learn Auslan. And I would say probably like 80 to 90% of our family were like, yep, sweet. Knox was 8 months old. They did level one in Auslan. I think at that time, NDIS covered half of it because I think our funding wasn't great back then. But like we were like, wicked, whatever. They did the course. And then because he was 8 months old and he wasn't really signing that much, they were all kind of like, oh, well, he's not really signing. So, like, what's the point of us continuing to learn when he's not really doing it? And then all of a sudden, Knox is 2.5 or 2, and he's going to Nan and Pa's and he's signing, I want Vegemite toast. And they're like, I've got no idea what he's signing. And they're asking his brothers. And I'm like, that's not fair on him. That's not fair on the boys. Like, that's not their job. And then it was just, I remember just being like, this isn't good enough, guys. We need to do something about this. And then I think that's when I reached out to you and was like, what can I do to get my family on board? Like, I love them, they're amazing, but he has absolutely surpassed them in language now in Auslan, and they're never going to catch up to him. But I need them to understand, like, that this is his first language. This is how he accesses life naturally and easily. And if you aren't trying and jumping on board that, then maybe we don't want to be around you. And I think that was really hard because I love my family, they're great. And I love my friends. And I know that every single person who is in our shoes will say the same thing. Your family and friends can be the most supportive people and be there for you, like top tier, but they do not understand because they have not been through your journey. So for me, starting Knox's Instagram page and reaching out to families and making friends virtually and then connecting with other families that are going through the same journey as us, whether it be years ahead of us, years behind us on the same, was like life changing. I really don't think I could have gotten through those first couple of years without all of those people to bounce off.
Oh man, totally. I know it's that element where you love your family, they love you, they love Knox. That was never coming into debate, but it is that degree of separation because this journey is just so unique, and you just sometimes need to be able to call up that personal chat to that person who's on the same journey, who has a deaf kid, and you don't have to fill in all context before you start talking to them about something. They just get it. It's like such a smooth, you know, conversation, interaction. And I love that because that is a huge part of our village, right? And I think I spoke about that in another podcast. I can't remember one of the episodes, but that parents of deaf kids and who are on that journey are sometimes they become some of your best mates. And you've actually got a few really close mates down there now who are parents of deaf kids
Yeah.
that you bonded with. Keely's one of them, I know. And then, you know, you just find these people, and that's so true. I think that that's really important for people to recognize is that the village doesn't have to look a certain way. It just has to support you and your child.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's stuff like that still happens. Like Knox has just started doing Woolies Blast, which is like a little cricket program that we do down here. And his brothers have done it for the last couple of years and he's always been going. So we just thought, well, let's just give him a go. And he absolutely loves it. He's such a little energizer bunny. He's just go, 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 go. So it's been so good for him. But I really noticed, so he's done 2 weeks now, and I've really noticed that he's really interactive and he's getting really involved, but he has no idea what he's doing. He just is not understanding. And look, I think it's an age thing too. Like he's not quite 4, he's 3.5. So he's young and he's probably not going to take in all of the information of the coaches telling him how to hold a bat and how to hold a ball and do all the rest of it. But there's obviously that other element where we're outside, it's windy, there's other kids talking, there's parents talking, there's someone talking so fast, they're not looking at him, he's not at the front. Like there's so many things. So I actually said to my mum and dad, because cricket's like our family thing, I said, I'm going to get an interpreter for Knox and see how that goes. I think the first couple of sessions, he'll enjoy them being there and he'll obviously get access to more things, but it probably won't be a big difference. But then that third and fourth and fifth time when they're there, he's really going to like, I think it's going to be a big change. And I remember them just saying, but he's fine. Like he's doing fine. And I'm like, but I don't want fine. I want he's loving it. He's engaged. He's getting everything out of it. I want him to have the same access that his brothers do. I don't want fine. Fine's not for us. I want thriving.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's that whole that word fine, right? It's thrown around so often with our kids as well. And because from the outskirts they look really good at doing what they're doing, they're masking really well, you wouldn't know how much they're missing. And I think so many families are fighting for interpreters at our kids' age, saying that they're too little. But this is when we should be getting our kids interpreters because they need to learn how to work with an interpreter. And Frankie's had one now for about a year, and he is so in sync now with the person who is signing for him and who is interpreting for him. He knows exactly how to use them, when to use them, and it's just been such a shift for him. And he's not even 4. And I think that was such a beautiful decision of yours to well, firstly recognize that as a parent and be like, hey, yeah, this isn't good enough. I don't want him just running around. I want him to be able to actually access it and get the most out of this program, just like his hearing mates. And how is it going? Has he been using the interpreter regularly? Or have you just started?
I organized them this week, so we couldn't get someone for today, but for next session and the rest of them, we have an interpreter booked in. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. We've had an interpreter at like a couple of OT appointments, and same thing, like I was a bit not sure at the start because, uneducated. I didn't want that relationship to take away from like this new relationship with the OT, but I'm also like, but you can't communicate with him in the way that he needs. So if he's looking at that person, looking at the interpreter the whole time, at least he's getting access to it and he's not just getting by. And I think having Knox go to Deaf Kinder this year has really, I guess, put into perspective what he's capable of, what he actually can get access to, and how different that is to mainstream kinder and childcare. Like I picked him up a couple of weeks ago and his childcare, one of his educators came up to me. She was so excited and she showed me this drawing that he did and he like drew like a circle with eyes and legs and teeth and ears and all the things. And she said, he was talking so much and signing so much. I said, what do you love? And he was like, I love mom and I love Aisha, and just like naming all these things. So it was like this cute little drawing with like all these words and this picture. And I was excited, but I was like, he's been doing that for 6 months at Deaf Kinder. I said, that is just, it just really put into perspective for me the difference of what he gets access to and how he's included in mainstream childcare compared to Deaf Kinder. And it's not their fault. They absolutely could be doing more, but to what extent you can only push so much before you can't push anymore and you're fatigued in advocating and all of the things. And I think for us, I was like, I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and we got funding through inclusion support for an additional staff member. Although this additional staff member has no deaf awareness training, no Auslan skills, never met a deaf person, but they're benefiting Knox. I was just like, he is like Deaf Kinder 2 days a week, absolutely thriving. It's literally could not be set up in a more perfect way for him. He's just there till the end of the year and then we're done.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to that high expectations that we set for our deaf kids. And we know that we can set these expectations. And I always encourage parents to set those expectations. So don't just, not use these big words. Don't, simplify everything because you're trying to make it easier. If we set high expectations, our deaf kids will meet them. Like they have completely the potential. But I think it's if we don't set them in the first place, they never have that opportunity to achieve. And within that deaf kinder, they know that. They know what our kids need, and so they will push them. And I just love that he's in that program because he's going to just benefit so much. I'm just thinking about time and sort of wrapping up. And one last question, I guess, that I ask every parent on the journey. And because I think this is such, particularly someone who's been in it for a few years now, you will have some nuggets of wisdom, even if you think you don't, you do. And I guess that is what advice, you've been on this journey now for 4 years. Oh my gosh, nearly four
I know.
years. Is that wild?
That's
What?
wild.
Um, 2 more years and they're in school. Can't. Anyway, too much. What advice would you give a parent who is new on the journey? They've just found out life is chaos. They have no idea what to think. What is something you would like them to know?
I think it can be easier said than done sometimes, but just soak it all in, embrace the journey, know what you want, work out what you want, know what you want, know how you're going to get there. Go into every appointment with every professional with an open mind. But if it doesn't relate to what you want and what your goal is, take it with a grain of salt. I think you just have to be strong with what you want to do and what your goal is and what you want for your child, and just enjoy the journey. Let them do what they want to do, whichever way they're going to get there. There's no linear path. They are not doing the same thing, because if you follow what they want, then you're going to be better and you're going to feel better and you're not going to be stressed. And I think, especially early days, just take a step back.
Oh my God. I love that. It's like it's not linear. It's not linear. And also letting them lead. That the two big nuggets there, like letting them lead, honestly, it's their journey. They know what they need. And I think that you've just really done that with Knox, and it's obviously paying off because he's just absolutely smashing goals. So
I think.
I do. I think too. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful way to end. And I'm just so grateful for you and everything that you're doing for that little boy and what you're sharing into the world. I'm going to share your Instagram handle so people can follow little Noxie and you. And yeah, thank you so much, Shanie, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. You're a super.
Thank you so much. I don't know what my journey would have looked like without you in it, and I appreciate everything that you share. And I'm sure there is not a mum or a parent of a deaf child on here that would not say the same.
Thank you, girl. I really appreciate that. Love it.
Thank you.
I have the wonderful Shanie with me here. Thank you so much for joining me.
No worries.